Welcome to another episode of my podcast. That's fine with me. Today we're going to be talking about something juicy and interesting: 50 Shades of Grey and Twilights. Specifically about the connection, the fuel that has been going on for quite a while between two of the authors and how it all started. I believe some of you might know the story behind both of these authors. The first one from Twilight side is Stephenie Meyers, and as for 50 Shades of Grey, the pen name is e.l.james. The real name is Erica Mitchell James. Okay, we're gonna get started. One of those authors was from Great Britain, 50 Shades of Grey, and the other one, Twilight's, from United States. And I guess most of you know Twilight was really popular, especially among teenagers. I can tell it for my side of the story. I was around 15, I guess, and maybe 14 when this whole series came out. But honestly, I'm talking about Twilight's. And honestly, I wasn't hooked on the show series up until the point when I was maybe 15 or 16, and I watched all three movies at once. But I can't say I was a huge fan of Twilight. It was more like nice vamp style story. I really liked it, but at the same time I can't say I was a huge fan, a real fan. And what caught my eye is something that I found out actually about the author of 50 Shades of Grey, e.l.james. Basically, she maybe at the end of 2008, she was watching some of the movies. Twilight, I guess. This was the first movie, or maybe not the first movie that she watched. And then instantly she was interested in the series. And what really astonished me, that she reread the books within a couple of days several times. She was done with reading three of the books. If I'm mistaken, they have three, maybe four books. I don't know how many they have in the series. And then she read them over and over again. And then within a couple of days or maybe weeks, she was up on some fan website and fan fiction, and she tried herself in writing some sequels to a Twilight series. And another interesting fact, she was, the author, 50 Shades of Grey, was back then a little bit over like 40, maybe she was 45 years old. And I can't say it's weird, but I guess this was a middle age crisis, as she describes later on in her future interviews. And I totally get it, because first of all, honestly, I am very impressed, and I guess she might be considered as a role model when you're 45 and you fall in love with a teenage fiction story. You read it, you find this inspiration for your future books, and then you start just out of nowhere. She did not consider herself as a real author, and she had no education in this area whatsoever. She graduated from University of Kent, and she studied history. But if we try to compare her to Stephenie Meyers, who is the author of Twilight, Stephenie has Bachelor of Arts in English Literature, and she graduated in 1997. I don't really want to compare both of these authors, because there's certain similarity between their novels, but honestly, what was really interesting, Erica, she fell in love with the Twilights, and when she published her sequel, she changed it a little bit and created an erotic version, the one with, I guess, sexual context. And a lot of people really liked her writing, and they really liked the theme behind this. And let me tell you guys, she was writing about Bella and Edward, and mainly with the sexual context. And when it gained a lot of popularity, she deleted her content from fan fiction website and uploaded this to her own website. And then she created an ebook, and she realized people were amazed and I guess really liked the continuation, and she understood that people, I guess, loved the whole thing with sexual context. That was the main reason why she created a little bit different world of Christian Grey and Anastasia Steele, and it had a lot of sex scenes in the books. People loved the context, they loved the series, and what is so interesting, she was a self-publisher. She did not find any sponsors, and she sold a lot of these books by herself when those books caught attention of some New York publisher. I don't remember, New York Times, if I'm mistaken, publishing agency, and they purchased the rights on the books and published them worldwide. And if I'm mistaken, she has become a bestseller author in the world, and she's still, if I'm mistaken, one of the bestseller author, at least in this category. At first, that was Stephenie Meyer, but then Erica Mitchell James beat her up a little bit at this point. And at first, when all the series came out, Stephanie Meyer was quite modest with her opinion, and she said that good for her, but I am not a huge fan of this type of books. That is the main reason why she can carry on with her business. I can carry on with my own business. And Stephanie Meyer published some new adaptations to Edward and Bella, if I'm mistaken, Love and Death or something like this. I did not read books, Twilights, in particular series, but I am reading 50 Shades of Grey right now. I was finished with the first book this summer, and I'm almost done with the second book. Frankly speaking, it is well written, and though Erica has no education in literature, she is not a real author. And she started writing her books only when she was, I guess, 45 or over 45. It is really interesting to know that her husband is Niall Leonard, and he's a novelist and he's a screenwriter who was born in Northern Ireland, and they got married in 1987. If I'm mistaken, they have two sons. Yeah, if I'm mistaken, they have two sons. And I wonder if her husband helped a lot with the novel. I guess someone who has no education and no understanding how to write a book, probably she had a great idea, and it is a little bit hard sometimes to shape your own thoughts and combine them in a book. And I guess she could have asked her husband to help with that if he's a novelist and a screenwriter, but most of all, she was obsessing over this idea, and she has become a very popular woman and one of the richest women, at least in this area. Most of the time, of course, we get that a lot of the readers were teenagers or women. Sometimes the statistic says that they are housewives. Some say that women are unsatisfied with their sexual life. That's why they try to escape and read some books that were written about sex, erotic, I guess, relationship. And honestly, I am almost done with the second book, and the first one was even a little bit better, I guess, than the second one. I watched the films, but honestly, films are missing a lot of information, especially about Christian going to a psychologist or psychiatrist. I can't say is he a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but he had been visiting this psychiatrist for a long period of time when Anna still came into his life, and he tried to fix some of his childhood traumas. But in the film, we don't really get a lot of information how he tried to deal with this situation that happened a long time ago when he was a kid. I am a little bit disappointed in sex scenes, and especially description. Honestly, the feeling that I got from these books, and I don't really want to shame anyone. I'm talking specifically only about my own feelings when it came to reading, and it was really well described, all of the touching and kissing and feelings, but at the same time, how realistic are those series? Sometimes it feels like the author is not gripping the real world, the real sex, and sometimes I feel like maybe, I don't know. Let's talk about something that I feel is a little bit unrealistic in the series. First of all, Anna, she had her first sex with Christian. She was a virgin. And then she had her first orgasm during their first sex. Honestly, I doubt it's possible to have any sort of orgasm during the first sex. And she describes Christian as a sex of God. But honestly, how realistic is that? Second of all, every single time they have sex in some public places, and at least the one that I can remember is in the elevator. And I guess it's hard to say when they were in the restaurant, and it was really well shown in the film as well. He got he got his finger in her vagina, I guess, and she almost come in front of people. First of all, I don't really think it is possible for a body, unless it's something weird with the brain and some sort of fetish. I don't really think it's possible for a person to feel sexual tension that much on the verge of a person to come when they're that much people in the elevator. Third mention, I don't understand when Christian is so sign up NDA, sign up this, sign up the contract, and then in front of maybe 20 plus people, he's doing this to Anna, and she almost comes when they're in the elevator with a lot of people, which is super weird. And he's getting his finger in the vagina, and she almost comes. Seriously, how weird is that? I kind of understand this, but it's almost impossible. How good he should be for a woman to come with only finger in the vagina when they're literally standing and it's super uncomfortable with other people. I don't know. I guess it's more like a fetish. Yeah, if you have some sort of fetish, maybe you can come, but I'm not really sure. Okay, a little bit more about some unrealistic facts. Every single time they have sex, she always comes, which is fine. I totally get it. It's not weird. But most of the time, if not always, she comes only one time. If he's that good, why is it so brief and swift? I know a lot of women can come like 3, 4, 5 times, and as soon as she gets her release, he gets his release as well. I mean, it doesn't match the vibe of this super sexual man and having this short, like amount of actual action. I don't know. This is just my point. And honestly, I can't say the series are bad. I remember when I read some of the interviews of Erica, she mentioned something like, "Oh, I wanted to create series, but I wanted to create a world for like some fictional characters and protagonists mainly." And she didn't really want to specify supernatural activity because it's going to be like copy and paste from something that she got her inspiration from. And she did a couple of sequels. That's why she played around with the character like Bella and Edward, but then stepped out. And I guess 50 Shades of Grey is a combination of Cinderella and Twilight. I know a lot of psychiatrists, not even psychiatrists, psychologists, are not a huge fan of 50 Shades of Grey because it's showing the manipulative side of Anastasia Steele, especially in the film, where she's like, "Oh, like I don't really need your money. I don't want to sign a contract where we're gonna have sex in a room of pain." But then she's like, "Oh, let's have some fun in this room of pain. Show me this," biting a lip, then falling down her knees, and he's a sadist, and of course he actually found some joy in this act. And a lot of it's just showing certain manipulations from his side and from her side. I guess it's a little bit better described in the book because book is showing more feelings than real action of manipulations. And honestly, that was really fun to read when she was like, "I don't need his money. I don't care about his money." And every single time, like, "Oh, I wish I could have an Audi." And like when he showed her a house, she was like, "Are you buying this house? I wish I could live it like this. I wish we could construct the house as well." I mean, it's fine to enjoy the money and his richness, but please don't say that you don't need his money at all and you're so pissed that he's trying to give you these money because you feel pretty much comfortable wearing some clothes he's offering. You're pretty much comfortable staying in his house after dating for like 2, 3 weeks. Again, the rapidness of these actions and I guess the swiftness of these actions is astonishing. I guess this is something similar to a real Erica Mitchell's life, where she fell in love with Twilights. She read it a couple of times within a couple of days, and then she came out with 2 of the sequels within, I guess, maybe 6 months or even less. And here's the same thing. They got to know each other, and they probably like started dating 2 or 3 weeks ago. And in 3 or 4 weeks, they are getting married. And it's really funny to see in the book that her friend, she had just come from her vacation when Anastasia told her she would get married her new boyfriend, the one that Anastasia knows for less than maybe 2, 3 weeks. And this is a little bit weird and insane. And especially the weirdest part was that Anastasia was described as really modest, super self-conscious, and very shy girl. But all of a sudden, every single guy wanted to have a relationship with her. And this is really interesting, guys, because I wanted to talk about this in particular. I don't know if the author, I mean, Eric, knows about this fact, but a lot of girls that are not wearing any makeup, that are really shy, and they're wearing super modest clothes, and they're like creating an impression of a very shy girl and domestic, I'd say. They are under domestic violence most of the time because a lot of sadists as Christian, and a lot of guys, abusive type of guys, they find this type of girls that look like victims and they take advantage of those victims. And this was the weirdest part when I watched some psychologists describing the relationship. He needed someone to punish, so he was basically an abuser. And it's just as weird as it can sound that abuser can stop just because he loves her. First of all, he's a narcissist, 100% narcissist. Narcissists, most of the time, they don't really love. And when a narcissist and a sadist is in love with a woman he likes to beat, well, I can't say if it's weird. I guess I'm not a psychologist, but at the same time, I don't believe this might work out for them as it is described in the movies and in these books. But let's talk about the beef between Stephenie Meyers and Erica Mitchell James. Steph Meyers, she was more or less fine with the fact that she based I mean, Erica based her stories or books on her book. I mean, that's fine to draw some inspiration from some of the books. And I guess it's really cool that someone got inspired by your, let's say, idea. But a little bit different point here is Stephanie wanted to write a Midnight Sun. Midnight Sun is a continuation of Edward's thoughts, and she wanted to release this book for quite a long period of time, but she always put this on the shelf because she had no time and she had some other books in the project. But what pissed her off, and that beef, I guess, started when Erica borrowed this idea and wrote a new book based on Christian's or Christian Gray's view of the story and his not even biography, but I guess his point of view. I don't know. I don't really have this book. I purchased 3 of the books of 50 Shades of Grey on a sale, and I love holding the book and reading a real book. Of course, if I have no access, I will download this on my laptop or like my tablet. But at the same time, I love holding a real book. And let's say I purchased those books from the same equivalent as Amazon. And yeah, so I'm reading these stories right now. It's hard to say if it's stealing or, I mean, I totally get Stephanie Meyer's. She is original with her ideas, and she's writing a lot of different stories. And it's cool when someone is inspired by your stories, but another thing when this person is literally taking your future ideas and adapting this before you and adapting this in real life. I can't say it's bad because, well, if Stephanie Meyers wanted to create something, she would have done this earlier and she wouldn't leak this information. And it's really hard to say like, oh, you stole my idea because, well, those two worlds are different. One is supernatural fiction, and the other one is another fiction, but it's not supernatural. It's about CEO, rich guy. I mean, a combination of Cinderella and some sex romance. The idea of showing the inner thoughts of a character, I guess it's not new, but it's weird that Erica is following this idea of the original author and adapting to her own career. I guess it's cool when you see an opportunity, but it's too obvious. I mean, it is incredibly obvious that Stephanie Meyer is probably going to come out with something new, and maybe Erica is going to adapt this in her future video. It's just, that is a new cash grab when you're kind of stealing these ideas from another author, but you're kind of creating something original, and at the same time, I guess you're earning a ton of money out of it. I don't know. I might be totally wrong in all the aspects, but I do believe the feud between both of these authors, at least from Stephanie's side, is ironically justified between both of these authors. And I remember I watched not even watched, but I read some of the interviews of Erica Mitchell's, where she was talking about her writing as if it's not something she would have expected to get that much popularity, and she even had some depression, and she felt like she wasn't worthy of this success. And maybe it is revolving around the fact she kind of took an idea of one author, and she lives with a novelist, and she lives with a person who writes some text for, I guess, some TV shows. And somewhere in between, I guess she had her original idea. Maybe not so original, but she had her idea. But I have my thoughts, and those are just my thoughts. I'm not accusing anyone, believe it or not. I'm just thinking, like, maybe she was feeling a little bit of, like, the small depression. She was not worthy of the success because half of these books were written by her husband, and some of these ideas were stolen from a little bit different author. Which, honestly, I don't care. I feel like it is what it is. If your husband agrees to help you, and if it's his success at some point when he's just rewriting some of the thoughts of his wife, it's fine because they're still together, they're married. If I'm mistaken, they're married. And this is a family business, this is a family success. I don't really think it's weird. If we're talking about Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey, honestly, there is no, I can't say there is something in common. That there is a great love between two of the characters and they can live without each other. But 50 Shades of Grey is specifically concentrated on sex patterns and sex behavior and some problems that he used to have when he was a kid. And Twilight is based on teenagers and vampires, and it's supernatural themes, so they're completely different. Inspiration she gained from the series, but they're still not similar. And I guess it is interesting to say when you watch Twilights, I always rooted for Jacob, and I always like, okay, Edward wasn't my type at all. I can't say Jacob was totally like my type, but when I was a teenager, I felt like he was hot. Robert was hilarious when he was talking in interviews about Twilights, especially. I found some video where they had a couple of cuts of Robert's interviews where he spoke like, I don't understand this girl, honestly. I feel like I tell her that I kill people and I am a vampire. She's like, I'm fine with this. And he's like, there's something seriously wrong with you. If you feel it's fine. And another one that I really loved when someone asked him, like, do you think you get paid enough for the series? He's like, not enough with the series. And hilarious answers. I mean, Twilights are great for teenage girls. They're based on this range, this, like, let's say, age gap. But 50 Shades of Grey is a little bit different type of audience. And I remember when I went to college, I had girls in my group and they were obsessing over 50 Shades of Grey. Those were maybe 19, around 18, 19. I don't remember what age. And I didn't know what they were talking about and I didn't watch any films. Back then, I watched films years later, maybe in 2018 and maybe in 2020. I can't say I fell in love with the series, and I'm just reading the books, so it's been like years since I started reading these books. But for now, I believe it's important to know that those are different. I understand the beef between of the authors, but I guess those books are for their own demographic and for their own fans. Someone is into erotic style, someone is into supernatural, and I know a lot of couples left some comments to Erica that those books helped with their sexual life and they were experimenting more. And that's great. I mean, if it helped someone in real life, why not? I can't say 50 Shades of Grey is the worst literature you can find. It is interesting. Again, it's a little bit unrealistic, and that is the main reason why it's called fiction. But at the same time, I guess it's unrealistic from the perspective of an author. What was the worst, I guess, of the books? I hated the most. I didn't really care about Red Pain, the Room of Red Pain. Weirdest parts where they had sex, and he, in the second book at least, was saying something like, one day I'm going to claim your asshole because I want to have you all. Yeah, that was weird. And the second thing, when they had sex and she was, for mistaken, a virgin, he gave some of her lube to her so she could try herself. And in the second book, when she was giving him a head, they kissed, and he said that he tasted himself. This was disgusting. Well, these two points were disgusting in the book. I am not shaming anyone for this, for doing. Maybe you can have something in your life as well. But in my opinion, from my side, and with all the fluids, I'm really sensitive about fluids. That was disgusting. But I guess to each their own. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. That's fine with me. I try to compare two of the books and the food that has happened years ago and I guess is still happening. But let me know in the comments. What do you think, guys? Love you all so much. And I'm going to see you in my next podcast. That's fine with me. Bye-bye.